All right, sit down. This is The Muppets, The Lord of the Rings, the extended edition. Traditionally, Muppets movies have one or two human characters, and then additionally, like the love interest of one of the main characters, and then everyone else is Muppets, depending on which Muppet movie you're watching, okay? We're going to have 3.5 main characters be humans in this rendition, okay? Human number 1 is Aragorn, son of Arathorn, heir to the throne of Gondor. Number 2, his love interest Arwen. Number 3, Frodo. Number half, we're going to get to later. A lot of y'all had beef with Bryan Cranston as Frodo, and frankly, you guys just aren't ready for that. Okay? Fine. I can accept that. Someone suggested in video number 1, Hayden Christensen as Aragorn and Daniel Radcliffe as Frodo. I don't hate that. I don't know who should play Arwen. It should be whoever the most beautiful actress is out there right now. Note I said beautiful, not hot. Now let's get down to the important stuff. Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog can play only one character, and that character is Samwise Gamgee. There's one comment made previously that has made me furious. Someone said, no, Kermit always plays the hero with a love interest. Are you suggesting that Samwise the Brave Gamgee, he who carried the ring bearer up Mount Doom, he who resisted the temptation of the One Ring, he who stood up to Strider and was ready to throw down, he who wounded Shelob, the embodiment of all evil, he who bagged Rosie Cotton, is not the hero with a love interest? Get out. 2, Miss Piggy. Everyone said, oh, Gideon, Miss Piggy needs to play all the female roles. No, there's one role for Miss Piggy and one role alone, because that role is so important. That is Éowyn, Shield Maiden of Rohan. Okay? I need this scene like I need air on Pelennor Fields after the charge of Rohan. The Witch King of Angmar just took out King Theoden. He looks at one soldier on the field, and he says, no man can kill me. And she says, moi, a man? I am no man. Hia! And then kills him. Let's talk about the rest of the fellowship. Sam the Eagle. Sam the Eagle is going to play Gandalf. Yes, I said Gandalf. No one else has his silly demeanor, but also authoritative position like Sam. It is so funny that Gandalf, the eagle, tells people to fly, your fools, and then, actually previously, needs help from the giant eagles to get down from a tall place. That's hilarious. A lot of you said, but Sam the Eagle, he looks like Saruman. Wrong. He looks like Christopher Lee. Put a pin in that. We're going to touch on that later. Ralph the Dog. Ralph the Dog is going to play Boromir. This is non-negotiable. Ralph the Dog is wise, but chill and lazy. Boromir is wise, not so chill towards the end, but that's a drastic switch from his character. And it would be so funny if Ralph the Dog gave up because, guys, I'm sick of walking around in this armor. I'm not walking up any more mountains in full chainmail. I'm done. Perfect. Remember, Boromir does come back later in flashbacks when talking to Faramir. Let's move on. The Fellowship. Fozzie the Bear. Fozzie the Bear plays Legolas. Why Legolas? Because he's taller than Gimli. And because Fozzie the Bear has dexterity to wield a bow. But Gideon, who plays Gimli? Gimli is played by Gonzo. Gonzo matches the height profile, and also, that's very funny. The dynamic between these two is hilarious. Half of the jokes in the movies between these two are about height differences. Okay. Merry and Pippin. There are only two people who can play Merry and Pippin. This is non-negotiable. Rizzo the Rat and Pepe the Prawn. We're going to touch back on this later. Actually, no, we're going to talk about it now. But Gideon, you say. Kermit always has Fozzie, and Gonzo always has Rizzo. It's almost as if it was a hard decision for Frodo and Sam to leave the Fellowship. And why else would Gimli sprint for weeks on end if not for love of Merry and Pippin? Wow. Okay, let's move on to some of the side characters. Galadriel. Galadriel is played by none other than Janice from Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. You see this? It's kind of far. Let me give you a better look. That's Galadriel. But what about the rest of the Electric Mayhem? They're also in Lothlórien. They're part of the court with one specific exception. Animal. Animal is going to play all of the main orc characters. All of them. I want to see him darting around the screen. I want to see him fighting himself. This is so funny. Who are the main orc characters, you might ask? Well, we've got Lurtz, we've got Gothmog, and most importantly, we have Grond. That's correct. It's just a giant animal. Ooh. But don't you think that what about Crazy Harry, you're saying? You've seen Animal, and a lot of you are like, well, what about Crazy Harry? What does Crazy Harry do? The one exception to this rule of Animal playing all of the orc characters is that one Uruk-hai berserker who blew up the wall at Helm's Deep. That's Crazy Harry. Easy. Okay, let's continue on with our villains. This is where the 0.5 of our 3.5 of humans come in. Gollum, Smeagol. I chose this picture for a reason. Smeagol needs to be a puppet. This puppet is designed after the 1973 animated version of Smeagol. Why is this 3.5? Because the puppeteer and voice actor, I'm okay with Andy Serkis, though he should be the only one to reprise his role, should never be completely off screen. You always see half of his face, a hand, and Sam loses his ever-living mind over it because he's the only person to see it. Okay? Speaking of Sam and Gollum/Smeagol, one of the biggest reasons that we need Kermit to be Sam is because I have to have the scene where Sam says to Frodo, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. And then the next shot is a full-grown human man laying in the arms of Kermit like Michelangelo's Pieta, while his little legs, felt straw legs, wobble and his face scrunches up and he struggles. That's golden. Moving on with villains. Saruman is played by none other than the Swedish chef. The Swedish chef looks friendly. And a lot of you think, but he looks like Saruman. No, he looks like Christopher Lee. You know what Saruman, one of the first depictions of Saruman is? You know that meme of the wizard pondering his orb? That's Saruman. You forget that at the beginning of the story, Saruman is Gandalf's friend. He's not a bad guy until he gets corrupted by observing the orb of the Palantir. Also, Saruman cooks up an entire separate breed of orc and a bomb for Helm's Deep. He cooks them up. Not to mention his voice through the mountainous pass. That's funny. New Zealand. This is New Zealand. New Zealand wields a fish. This is Wormtongue. If this version follows after Peter Jackson and has Wormtongue kill Saruman, it's going to be with a fish. That's funny. When it comes to voices, no voices are as recognizable as Statler and Waldorf. But in this version, they're not going to be Statler and Waldorf. They're going to be Denethor and Stuart of Gondor. Them mocking the Fellowship as they arrive in Gondor is funny. Not as funny as him mocking endlessly Faramir, played by Scooter. He's just too kind-hearted, he's too sweet, he's too cute. We breezed past the Council of Elrond, but here they are back. Dr. Bunsen and Beaker. Why? I need a scene of these two working some magic in a lab to rebuild Anduril. Also, Beaker reacting to the black language. Hilarious. Now, what about Sweden's? What about this guy? What about that guy? Sweden's is the Balrog. Size difference, look at him, Balrog. Lastly, someone accused me of slander. This is Uncle Deadly. That's the mouth of Sauron. Now, I know so many of you had beef with this. I know because this is the first time any one of my videos really popped up on this app, and I read every single one of your comments. All of them. And between your, frankly, wrong casting and everyone asking me why my tongue was blue raspberry Jolly Rancher, by the way, there were a shocking number of people who said, I don't like Lord of the Rings, but I'd watch this. All of your castings, almost all of them, revolved around the Muppets dynamic or having actors reprise their roles. I need to point something out to you. When I was young and dumb, I didn't get Pride and Prejudice. I didn't get Pride and Prejudice until I watched Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Then I got it. Then it all clicked. That's what this movie is. We are not recreating The Lord of the Rings by Peter Jackson. We are creating The Lord of the Rings by Jolkin, Rolkin, Tolkien. We need to use these relationships to explain heavy story beats. Their relationship, all of them. Look, I'm not a Muppet guy. I'm not even a Lord of the Rings guy. What I am is a good storyteller and great story guy. I love The Lord of the Rings. And I love The Muppets because it's a great story told by great storytellers. The Lord of the Rings is an earth-shattering story. Plain and simple. It has redefined and reshaped fantasy for decades. And for someone to say, I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy, makes me sad. The Lord of the Rings is a story about love and hope and progression. It is one of the few stories that makes me want to be a better man. This is who we're making it for. To finish up some of your other questions and requests. Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil doesn't have a casting of a Muppet because Tom Bombadil, the character, is already a Muppet. We need to have 50-50 of Muppet to human ratio as background characters. Theoden is a Muppet. He's an old boar, the wizened old boar who turns back to a younger boar after Wormtongue's influence is removed. But we need the 50-50 in the background for one reason only. Crowdfunding. We're going to sell background roles. That's how we're going to raise money to do this. I'm not the smartest man. I'm not the wisest man. I just love good stories and good storytellers. Tunes? I'll be back with a book review soon.